Sound check. 1, 2, 3.
Good evening, councillors. I will officially reconvene this ordinary council meeting at 7 p.m. Thank you for your attendance tonight. Please note this meeting is being live streamed. Councillors, tonight's meeting is a continuation of the ordinary council meeting adjourned at 10:35 p.m. on the 22nd of October 2024. Once attendance has been taken, the meeting will commence from the point at which it was adjourned. All declarations of interest made on the evening of the 22nd of October 2024 will continue to apply, and I will draw attention to these at the beginning of each item. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'll move on to attendance. All councillors are present in the chamber this evening except for Councillor Clark. So we move back to item 10, reports, and we will commence with the remaining items in section 10 that have been withdrawn by councillors, starting at item 10.3.2, commercial waste services, which was withdrawn by Councillor Johnson. You've provided council with... Oh, sorry. Yep, Councillor Latter is just leaving the room due to an indirect financial interest. So, Councillor Johnson, you've provided an alternate motion. Would you like to move that?
Yes, please.
Okay, and that's on the screen and it's been provided to councillors. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bull. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you for that. So I've got an alternate motion. Don't we talk to the alternate or just to the motion itself? I'm not quite sure. Both? All together?
Well, what's on the table?
Yeah.
You're talking to what's on the table.
Awesome. We've got a report and it's awful. It's a lot of rubbish. Talks about waste collections in our commercial areas, and there's a whole history of non-compliance, of ridiculous things in bins, threats against our staff who've been trying to do the work that we tasked to them. And so the report came back with a recommendation to discontinue waste collection services in commercial areas as a result of all of this, which is fair enough to phase that in. But I don't think that's the right approach. I think the report, it was actually a really good report because it had a lot of detail in it. So it's very helpful. And it categorised businesses in the first, opening in the intro, it categorised some examples of the very different types of businesses that we have in the city. And each business will produce waste that's unique to that business or that class of business. A cafe is not going to produce the same a type of waste as a scrap metal depository. That's not going to produce the same waste as a beauty salon. So I think that they're really important considerations, and that's and I don't think it's the right approach to not do any waste collections or to phase out waste collections in our commercial areas. I completely agree that we shouldn't be providing commercial style waste collections, because I think because each business is very different, that needs to be tailored for that individual business. And I would like the city to receive direction that we would like to provide some type of waste collections to our businesses and in our commercial areas, but a smaller scale of waste, more in line with like a residential collection. So if you're just producing a small amount of waste that is similar to residential collections, then that's something that the city does really well and really efficiently, and just needs one truck going down the street instead of multiple different operators. So I think it has a lot of benefits for us to continue to do that, to continue to provide in good faith a rubbish collection service, and with the hope that the businesses will also then do the right thing and utilise that properly. I think we heard stories about businesses requesting, for example, a FOGO bin and then filling it with scrap metal parts. I mean, that's just not on, and, absolutely unacceptable. People need to do better with what they put in their bins. That includes our businesses, because we're providing the service and they are voluntarily taking it up. And I think that's the approach that that I'm suggesting with my alternate, is that we provide essentially the three bin service that we offer to our residents, and with the option to request an additional bin. So it might be 2 red bins or 2 green bins or 2 yellow bins, whatever. Beyond that, I think we're getting into the area of commercial collections. But I think offering something that's individual and tailored for each business, but still in line with our waste collections, is a sensible thing to offer our businesses, rather than nothing at all. So that's why what I've got on the table.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bull.
Can't really add anything to that.
Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. If you look at page 244, it's quite interesting to see that they quote removal of the city as the intermediate between all stakeholders and requesting tenants to engage with a private waste contractor, and it goes on to say that, and reasons why, but they're actually, that's just wiping your hands of an issue that we need to be dealing with responsibly. So I'm very happy with the amendment, and I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against?
Yeah, yes, please.
Councillor Eason.
Yeah, look, I don't see it the same way. I suppose. I see this as an offspring from the deep dive from the residential bin service from the previous item that we discussed last week, and given that the program hadn't been reviewed in about 20 years, it's very timely for this update to happen. So, from reading the report and my own observations from around the city, it's quite clear to me that offering a residential bin service to commercial customers just isn't the right option. It's not a one-size-fits-most solution. There's, as mentioned, steel gets thrown in FOGO bins. It causes a lot of complications and contamination, which essentially hurts our downstream processing via Red Hill. So I don't support what's on the table. I understand the gesture, but I think it's just take the options away, the functionality away, we'll get less issues, and then commercial customers can select the waste service and the provider that can best suit them and the waste that they produce. There will be a variety. Cafes, yes, understand, but that's more food waste as well, so they might be able to do more FOGO than just general, rather than having that temptation of the wrong bins there. So, and look, interesting to note, or worth noting, so I'd rather actually just take this away and then remove the waste charge for these customers, because then they can choose the waste that suits them, and we don't have duplication of services where they may be getting a bin, they're paying for it, but they actually want something else. So I'm probably quite happy to foreshadow the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to start with suggesting another limb. Would like to ask the mover if we can add another limb in 2, which will say, it will be 2D, which will say improvements to address all the issues mentioned in the report.
So the mover is a seconder happy to accept that?
I can repeat that. So it will be authorizing the CEO to implement changes to the commercial waste services, including, it will be D, improvements to address all the issues mentioned in the report.
Do you accept that? Yeah. So if the minute taker can add that to the substantive motion. We'll just wait for that to get up on the screen. Is that the correct wording,
Yes,
Deputy Mayor?
thank you.
Okay, go
Yes.
ahead.
So just about this addition, when I just read it now, and it does say into implementing changes, I wasn't sure if it's clear which changes. So I thought that can give guidance to the city that council does want, if this is supported, that they will go and address all the many issues that they mentioned. And I would like to again say thank you to the officers for this report. Very comprehensive, very detailed. This issue, as was mentioned, was not really raised to our level for a long time. This is the first time I'm aware of this type of issues for our commercial waste services. So it's never too late to know about that and to start addressing them. If I have those two options, what I had from Councillor Ibsen, which is to take all commercial services and the new ones out, and those that and this option now from Councillor Johnson to have a more moderate way, I will go with the moderate way. I am not supportive of removing completely the option for commercial services. Definitely not in our town centres from using our waste services. We're not working just for residential, we're also working for commercials. Businesses are part of the community, and they should be allowed to use that the service with some conditions, and knowing that they sort out the waste as they should, etc. But I'm also concerned if we will remove them from our services. Removing the charge is not enough. I think then we will have businesses questioning what they actually get for the rates, because so many aspects that we do provide, it's focused on residents, and if we take the waste aspect, I'd be concerned that we will hear more concerns from businesses as we go along. What do actually they get? Because as we read, they do have a charge, but it was actually subsidized for many, many years by the city. So I think the right strategic way for us is to keep the charge if those businesses would like to stay with us, and as you know, under those conditions that we see here in the alternative. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? If not, I'll go the mover to close.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd be disappointed to hear that the officer's recommendation was foreshadowed, and I probably would have preferred the other motion that was provided to us as an alternative to, continue the services and look into how we can provide it better as alternative to doing it, without, just stopping. Sure. Thank you. Just to clarify, I think the issues are with the existing waste services, and the proposals for new waste services. So it is going to be really important now that officers are going to need to, go back and do some compliance stuff, especially with this additional limb, because I think they're very, very aware of the issues now. So we'll be expecting a lot more compliance on existing services. So just to be really clear, this is obviously about new services and what we're doing to businesses. And my understanding is new businesses have, when they do a development application, they provide a waste plan. So I think it's less likely there's going to be the issues we've had in the past with new businesses, because they'll have developed a waste plan, thought about where their bin space is going to go and, what sort of waste collections they're going to need. So I think, I'd ask you to support providing some sort of service for our businesses rather than nothing at all, because for some businesses it's going to be just enough. For many it won't be, but we should be able to support those ones that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Palmer, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull and Councillor Johnson. All those against? It's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Osazowski, Councillor Eason, Councillor Sutherland and myself. That is lost. The foreshadowed motion is now on the table, which is the officer's recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Osazowski? Are you talking to... I'm asking for a
Can I
seconder.
ask a question of governance before you go into asking for a seconder?
Sure.
Thank you. If I second the motion, can I then ask for an amendment to be added to that motion?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, you can.
I'm happy to second that.
Okay, seconded. Councillor Osazowski, Councillor Eason.
Yeah, so look, probably not much more to add. Look, definitely understand that this is a change, but it's a phasing out process up until the 30th of June 2028. So I think there's a substantial amount of time for people to readjust to this and make the change when they see so fit. And very clearly the city's across this topic with the deep dive that they have done. So I think they'll be able to address this fairly easily, and I don't think there's going to be too many people disappointed.
Thank you. Councillor Sosowski.
Thank you. Can I make an amendment, please?
Well, you can put it forward and I'll see
I'd like
if
to
the
put it
mover
forward,
accepts
please.
it.
In the run sheet, there is an alternate provided by Councillor Eveson, which adds limb 3 in, which requested the Chief Executive Officer to investigate possible alternate options for a commercial waste service to the City of Bayswater businesses that does not include the current option provided by the City.
So I'm going to ask the mover if you accept that amendment. Yes? Okay. So if the minute taker can please add that limb that now forms part of the substantive motion. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Sosowski?
This is just to follow up on what Councillor Johnson had said, that she would have preferred to have seen limb 3 added in, so I'm just following up on what she had mentioned in her previous speech.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I won't support that, and I just want now, if this is what on the table, I'll highlight more my concerns. I think that will have a significant financial impact on our businesses. Some of them are very small businesses. I definitely acknowledge that some businesses, definitely in the industrial areas, probably should be moving on to a private waste services, but you need to understand that some businesses are in our town centres and they are very small. That will require them now to pay much more to have a basic service that I think every local government should provide and have that ability, even if it's limited when it comes to the amount of bins. So I just feel like we are essentially fobbing off our responsibility for businesses here, and the whole kind of sector, commercial sector in our city, and telling them you go find solutions, you pay more. We are focusing only on our residents. You'll continue to pay the rate, but waste services you will not get from us. So I'm very concerned and nervous about that, especially now with the financial climate for businesses.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for? Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm speaking again about it, but I just think that we're dropping the ball here. We do have a responsibility towards those small businesses. And when you consider small business, the putrescible waste that we're talking about, and they're going to have that sitting there, they may not have that collected for a month, or somewhere where the negotiations privately will exceed more expensively, and it won't be collected as well as the city does. We can do it, obviously, in a correct manner, weekly or fortnightly, cleanly, and no argument about it. They know it's going to be collected at a reasonable cost. Whereas now, we're just throwing them to the wind. They don't know what they're going to be charged and so forth. And no, I think it's very, very sad. So I'm sorry that I'm against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Maleka.
Thank you. Look, I will be supporting what is on the table here with this extra limb as well. What I see here is an opportunity for us to tighten some of our processes that haven't been reviewed for, say, 20 years is what I just heard, I think. And look, Limb 2 says we have a 4-year plan here to phase out this service. So it's not happening tomorrow. There is opportunity for these commercial businesses to actually start looking at ways that they can, look for the services that are going to suit them and suit what they require and what they need.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Yes, I will be supporting this. As I indicated, I think this is a good point in between stopping the services altogether and look at what we can offer for businesses during this time. I think what's important about the waste collections in the commercial areas is it's not just the bins they put out, because our waste fees pay for cleaning up dumped rubbish, cleaning up the streets, providing public bins, and I think it's really important that those sort of services continue in our in our business areas, our industrial areas and our town centres. And so the waste charges do contribute to that. So I think it's important for the businesses to benefit from that, from having nice, tidy streets, but also from contributing financially to those services that benefit all of us. I think, and I think definitely, look, it's going to be labour intensive to engage with businesses in terms of tailoring, finding a solution that suits them. It's not going to suit everyone, obviously, so it is going to be more individuals, it is going to be more labour intensive, but I would encourage the city to do that during this process, and the cost of that are obviously part of our waste collection charges, and I'm sure that will be adapted as required. Thank you. And thanks to Councillor Sosowski for putting this forward.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone for? If not, I'll go the mover to close.
No, probably not much else. So, I mean, just reading through the report on some high levels, yeah, it does talk about not the fortnightly service not being sufficient for a majority. So, I'm comfortable with this, and I think, look, I did put it in the run sheet, probably just trying to keeping it clean, but I think there is an ability to transition smoothly, and I think this is a good way to do it. So, happy.
Thank you. I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Sosowski, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against? Councillor Palmer, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull. That is carried. We'll just bring Councillor Ladder back in. And while we're waiting, councillors, I just want to clarify that we just received information from Councillor Clark. She's had technical issues with her email, but she was trying to advise that she is an apology for this evening. So just so that's on the record. Okay, Councillor Ladder, for your information, an alternate motion was moved by Councillor Eveson. That was provided in the run sheet and that was adopted. The next item is item 10.3.3, tender number 14-2024, supply, installation and maintenance of illuminated street sign with advertising rights. This has been pulled by Councillor Ladder, who has provided an alternate motion to council. Is that what you're moving? Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Johnson. And just for all councillors, please just remember there is confidential attachment, so please don't refer to them whilst we're in open session. Councillor Ladder.
Thank you. Sometime earlier this year, I inquired about how to refine our policy around advertising and was told that when the tenders come up is the best time. So I'm proposing that we simply add these clauses so that we are not profiting from the advertisement of fossil fuels, since we are trying to limit our investments in fossil fuels and do other measures within the city to combat climate change. So it felt like being consistent with that was important, and also alcohol, because there's been quite a few studies about the impact of public alcohol advertising on young people in particular, and they cannot. Young people are particularly vulnerable to this form of advertising in public spaces, which this will be. So I've proposed this alternative to deal with those two things on a very small number of advertising spaces that we have control over.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Probably don't need to add much more to that. Thank you. Appreciate the amendment. And obviously the work on the tender. I believe there's a study out of Curtin that talks about young people seeing alcohol advertising when they're on the way to school, catching the bus and whatnot. And these are one of the few places that we can have some control over what we do. So I think that's good that we can try and do that.
Thank you. I just have some questions first to the director. Can I just ask, our policy at the moment, does that prohibit anything else? So this motion is seeking to prohibit the signs advertising fossil fuels or alcohol. Does our policy prohibit anything else?
In terms of policy for which policy are we talking
Is there a
about?
policy for, advertising or signage on city assets?
There might be some planning policies potentially.
Okay. Is there?
Through the chair, there's planning policies around signs on both public and private land, such as hoarding, billboards, etc. In terms of the content of signage, that's typically dealt with through the Australian standards or the ad standards. That's governed by an Australian body. There isn't anything explicit around the content, more so around the size and location of signs.
Okay, so for example, the big illuminated sign that's on the corner of Walter Road and Wellington Road, there would be no restrictions on content that's advertised on those signs.
Through the chair, if there's no conditions on that planning approval around the actual type of advertising, then it is simply required to comply with the advertising standards.
Okay.
That's Australia-wide.
Thank you. And just another question. In terms of the tender itself, when it went out and we got the applications back, or the submissions back, in your opinion, does it make a difference if after the fact of the process, council then restricts certain things? Would that impact potentially the value of their assets to be able to generate income for the successful applicant?
The actual tender document states that one of the conditions they need to meet is that they need to get approval for categories of advertising, so not specific each advert, but groups of or topics for advertising. So this would probably fit under that. But obviously, depending on how many categories you start putting conditions on, it'll probably have some sort of impact eventually.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor Ball?
Can I just ask a couple of questions
Go ahead.
as well? Can someone just explain to me actually what these signs are?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, at the moment, we already have signs at some of our intersections. So you might recall driving around and seeing some street signs. They're actually illuminated, so they're just like a box with a street name on it that's backlit, and then attached to that is a bigger sign with some advertising. So, for example, might have Bunnings or something like that advertised on there. So we've got there about 11 at the moment, I believe, around the city. So they're just located at a corner, and they'll just have directions, have the street name, and also some directions for advertising as well.
I really can't picture them. I just trying to understand what the purpose of these signs are.
Advertising.
Not street names.
It's both. It's street. It's got the street name, so it's got the tag. So trying to describe ones that are existing. So you'll have a pole with illuminated sign pointing to the streets. So that basically is like replacing our normal street signs. And above that, you'll have like a rectangular advertising sign. So at the moment, they're just fixed advertising. What's proposed here is to go digital, so you can change the advertising over time.
Okay. And can I get some feedback on how it's determined where these can go?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, most cases it's where it can be fitted and where it's safe to place a sign like that. Obviously, they'll have an opinion as well in terms of where the best locations to get their exposure that they want. So you'll find that it's usually at a signalised intersection, somewhere where it won't necessarily distract a motorist or cause an accident. So it's a lower risk environment, even though such intersections are quite busy. But if they're signalised, then generally cars stop and they can look at the sign. So there is some criteria that the officers use, and they've determined a number of locations around the city that are relatively low risk for these signs.
Okay. And my last question is, how many of these signs exist at the moment, and what is the expected maximum number that are going to come in as a consequence of this decision tonight?
I'll go to the director.
Yeah, through the chair, I believe there's about 11 at the moment in the city. It's actually stated in a report somewhere. There's a number of locations that have been identified. I just can't find it at the moment. So it's 50, total of 50 locations identified. So it's 50 locations that could have these signs. Doesn't necessarily mean every single one will have a sign on there.
Okay. Can I move a procedural motion that this is referred to a councillor workshop, please?
Sure. Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor. Councillor Bull, do you wish to speak to your procedural motion?
Briefly, I really don't know what I'm voting on tonight. I don't have a good understanding of what these signs actually are and what their purpose is. I also am struggling to try to understand why this is something that the city has decided to kind of progress with, and what the benefit is. I think it'd also be really good to get more detailed information about what these signs look like, how big they are, and where they're going to go, particularly if they're going to be illuminated signs with advertising across the city. I think it's important for us to be aware of what that looks like and how that could impact on the amenity of various areas in the district. And I think it would be good to have a discussion about that from an amenity and aesthetic point of view, but also from a revenue point of view as well.
Thank you. So I'll now put the procedural motion to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Palmer, Councillor Latta, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull, Councillor Johnson. All those against is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Sazowski, Councillor Easton, Councillor Sutherland and myself. So I use a casting vote that is lost. So we now go back to what's on the table. Councillor Bull, do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I'll speak against this. I don't know what I'm voting on here. There is really no detail on what we're agreeing to. There's no detail on the size of these signs, what their actual purpose is. Some people are saying advertising, some people are saying street signs, and the amount, the revenue of that is described in this doesn't really seem to be very much compared to, if it's going to be an advertising sign, like what the potential revenue could be. I think it'd be really great to understand the economics of that. But also having 50 illuminated signs with ads on them, I'm not sure that's something that I'm comfortable with this extremely limited amount of information. So short of it being able to go to a workshop so we could have a discussion about what this means, I'm going to vote against it.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Sutherland?
Can I just ask a question?
Go ahead.
So you said we've got some of these already around the city?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Has there been any complaints about lighting and illumination and that?
I'll go to the director.
As far as I know, there hasn't been any complaints.
Okay, well, I don't think this is a big thing. It's just come to us. They've asked if they could put this on for a few years and anything to get them to improve their business. I'm presuming it's including power supply to Claude Outdoor Poultry Limited for period blah, blah, blah. So I think, if nobody's worrying about it, I haven't heard any complaints. The officers haven't, so I think we go for it.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. I'm looking at the 1,590 as the contract term for one sign per annum, I presume.
I'll go to the director.
Yes, that's correct.
So that sign is producing $150 a week to the city. Is that right? Roughly?
100. Sorry?
100 and, well, if you take 1590 per annum, 12 months, that's $100 and odd dollars per month
Per
to
month,
the
not
city.
per week.
No, I wish it was, but it's yeah, it's a month. That's not a lot as far as I'm concerned, especially as Councillor Bull has just said. I'm hoping this isn't a big sign like Wellington Street, but there again, we haven't had really enough information. There's no examples we've been given at all. So we're talking in the air about something that we know nothing about. I'd like to see more information on it before I can agree to it for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eveson?
Yeah, just a few questions. So there's 11 signs across the city at the moment. Is there any fossil fuel or alcohol related signage on those 11?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not familiar with all the advertising that's on those signs.
I'm happy to foreshadow the officer's recommendation in case this one doesn't get up. Yeah.
Okay, do you wish to speak on this one or not?
Yeah, I'll speak with what's on the table now. So I know of these signs. There's one on the corner of Broome and Embleton Avenue. They're illuminated. They've got advertising above. They're not ugly. A lot of councillors didn't even know they were there, and they've been there for some time. So clearly they're not the demographic that are looking for these ads. So they do really blend in. They're not a big obnoxious looking thing. And the changeover of signage is not going to be, it's not going to be dazzling. They're not that large. And they are at locations where there is traffic lights. So I think it's a smart way of getting street lighting of sorts with the illumination of signs, and we don't have to pay for them because the tenders mean that they're going to install and maintain the street signs for us. So it's another way of mitigating costs. So I think it's smart, and I'm quite happy to support. I think I'm comfortable with the advertising standards as looking after what goes on the content.
Councillor Sutherland, did you have a question? Because no? Yes, no?
I just wanted to ask, I think there's one on the corner of Naranda and Camboon, and that one
Is that a question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Is there one on the corner of Camboon and Naranda Ave?
I'll go to the director.
We're just having a quick look.
So there's one on the corner of Morley and McGilvray.
So at the corner of Morley and McGilvray, but not the intersection, yeah.
Okay. That was your question. Okay. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? Deputy Mayor.
I just have a question. There were just some discussion or comments about the revenue. Can we get clarification what will be the revenue, the monthly revenue from each sign? I think it was mentioned before here. I just want to confirm if that's the case. I think it says the current income per sign.
I'm just double checking if it's in the confidential section or
It
not.
says, it actually says here.
I'm just double checking, Deputy Mayor. I'll just check with the director if it's in the public section as well.
So in the public section, it quotes $1,590 exclusive of GST. That's the current contract at the moment. That's what we receive per sign per annum.
At the
Okay,
moment.
so I'm happy to talk about the current one, just so I understand it. So the 1,590 per sign, is this for what, annually? What are we talking about? It doesn't say what the time frame.
Annually, yes.
Annually. Okay. Look, I won't support it. I also think that I need more information. I don't think there is any rush. I'm not saying that I will object to it necessarily in the future. I just feel like I do want to see. I'm actually not familiar as well with those signs. The fact that some of us have not noticed it doesn't mean that we should be ignorant in that sense and just approve it. I would like to understand what we are giving away. Are we getting enough revenue for that? What we're gaining? I would like to see examples. I thought, I would like to understand the locations. What will be the future locations? So I just would like more information around this. So at this stage, I'm not ready to support it.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for? Anyone wish to speak against? If not, I'll go to the mover to close.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much to add. See how it's going to fall. But I do think that it's worthy of considering putting these advertising restrictions. I don't think it's appropriate for the city to profit from advertising of this nature, and particularly fossil fuel advertising when we are trying to limit our own investments, so that we don't profit from fossil fuels. So, thanks.
Thank you. I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Latta and Councillor Johnson. All those against is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Sazowski, Councillor Eason, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Sutherland, Deputy Mayor Councillor Bull and myself. That is lost. We now go to the foreshadowed motion, which is the officer's recommendation.
Yep, just award in line with the tender assessment.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Sazowski, Councillor Eason.
Yeah, we've probably had a lot of the discussion already, so I'm comfortable with this. They're not a large sign. There's not a lot of them. The proposal is I'm comfortable with what's proposed in the tender bid. So yeah, I think there's nothing more to add.
Councillor Sazowski.
Councillor Eveson mentioned in his previous speech about advertising standards, and there are advertising standards, so I'm happy that we'll be following those advertising standards.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor Johnson.
Maybe not really for or against. Obviously, the original decision, the one on the table now, is about whether accepting officer's recommendation around a tender. So that's fine. There was a decision matrix, and we've had these conversations before. But I do think this is a missed opportunity to say what's important to us and to our community. We don't have many opportunities, and so I do hope that perhaps we can review our. Perhaps I'll be recommending through the policy committee that we review the signage that we permit within the City of Bayswater.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for? Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor Bull. Oh, sorry, Councillor Park. Okay, Councillor Bull.
So we're now going to approve 50 illuminated advertising signs in places around our district that we don't know where are going to go and what they actually look like for $1,500 a go per year. I don't understand why we don't spend time thinking about how we can make this the most optimal outcome for our district. Spend a bit of time, kind of looking at the economics, spend a bit of time actually understanding what's going to be going into these intersections. If they're even going, okay, we've been told some are going to go intersections, but we don't actually know. We've been told that there's up to 50 places that have been identified, but we as councillors haven't been told what they are. I just don't understand why why some councillors are happy to just kind of close their eyes and accept this as it is. So, look, if we end up with 50 ad signs all over the place, that's what we get for $1,500 a go. It just seems bizarre to me that we'd get so comfortable with that.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for? Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, just from a cost point of view, I think we're missing out big time. And also, we're missing out on information. We don't know if our logo is going onto these street signs, which we need to have, just like we've got logos on all our names here. We don't know. It's just going to be McGillivray Avenue, just like the officer just said, lit up. No, it's going to be private advertising, which they're going to earn a little bit of. And we really haven't, I don't think, shown good commercial value for the city by the price of $150 odd a month that we're going to get if it's $1,500 odd per annum. So I'm disappointed that we haven't had the information that we deserve, which is what they look like, whether there's going to be a logo, and all of the necessary information coming with it. I'm very sorry about that.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, in short, look, just to add to what I spoke before and my concerns, I just wanted to highlight that this is for 15 years. And I don't think I hear many concerns when it comes to tenders. So I am also surprised why there is insistency. If there are quite a lot, and a big number of councillors are saying we actually want more time, Madam Mayor, to have a look at it. What's the rush to give it another month? If any councillor on a tender thinks that there is some problems, they want more information before they can better understand what to do. I think that's prudent. There is no rush. There is no time limits here. So also with regard to the process, I have concerns. I just understand why we are not allowed to get more time before we have a vote on the tender process.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for? Anyone wish to speak against? I have some questions. So just to the director, there was a number bandied around, I'm not sure if a director said it, about 50 potential locations. From the information that I have in the report, it says we currently have 11 and the recommended company has said installation of 19 additional signs could be included at no cost to the city. So where did we get 50?
So the 50 is locations.
Is approved location.
We're approved by the city in terms of being suitable for this type of sign to be put in. Doesn't necessarily mean they'll put a sign in every single one of those locations, but if they applied to us and said they'd like to put one in one of those locations, then it's suitable, it's already been assessed.
Okay, but just to be clear, they haven't said that. They've said in their tender 19.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for that. And just an additional question following up from what you said about approved locations. So the city is aware of, it's not just anywhere, there are actually approved locations and they have already gone through consideration.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I don't really have a lot to say on this. I just want to I want to clarify some of the information in some of the previous debate. It was talking about the value for money that we're getting and that $1,500 amount was being bandied around. I just want to clarify that that's the amount that we're currently receiving. It doesn't necessarily mean that that is going to be the amount going forward that we will receive. So I don't want that confusion to be out there. Anyone wish to speak for? Anyone wish to speak against? If not, I'll go the mover to close.
Yep, thank you. So thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, so 19 additional, so 30 total, not 50. The replacement also provides opportunities for local businesses to advertise. So this is from the report. The inclusion for open advertising provides media space and guaranteed, so the media space for the city on every single illuminated sign deployed for every month of the contract, and that they will produce the artwork for the city and the schedule of advertising at no cost. So city advertised events, all of these sorts of things, it's going to help us as well in the long term. So,
Point of order. Yes, Councillor Bull.
Introducing new information as opposed to rebutting in the debate, it's not allowed.
Correct. So you just have to stick to what's on, what's been brought up during debate.
absolutely, I was addressing the cost and the value of the signs that was brought up in debate, I felt, and I'm quoting verbatim the dot points in the report.
That's okay.
Look, nothing else. The report's very thorough. Suggest reading. It's good.
Thank you. I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Ossowski, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against? Councillor Palmer, Councillor Ladder, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Bull. That is carried. Okay. So that's all of the items from section 10 that have been pulled. So we'll now move to adopting the remaining items in section 10 on block. Could I please have a mover and seconder to adopt items? And I'm going to go through them all. So it's 10.2.2, 10.2.3, 10.3.4, 10.3.5, 10.5.1.1, 10.5.1.2, 10. Oh, okay. Sorry, councillors. Before we get to that vote, we actually do have another report in item under section 10, which is 10.4.1, Deschamps Reserve Footpath designated on lead area. Councillor Palmer, you pulled this one. Are you moving the officer's recommendation?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sutherland. Councillor Palmer.
Just very briefly, I think it's a very wise decision to have these footpaths in such a large area where dogs roam quite largely, and the school is right on that pathway, and there has been issues of needs to have them on leads in these pathways. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sutherland. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? If not, I'll put it straight to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll now go back to reading out all of those individual items. So we'll now move to adopt the remaining items in section 10 en bloc. Could I please have a mover and seconder to adopt items 10.2.2, 10.2.3, 10.3.4, 10.3.5, 10.5.1.1, 10.5.1.2, 10.5.1.3, 10.5.2.1, 10.5.2.2, 10.5.2.3, 10.5.2.4, 10.5.2.5, 10.5.2.6, 10.5.2.9, 10.5.2.10, 10.5.2.11, 10.5.2.12, 10.5.2.13 and 10.5.2.14 en bloc. Councillor Latta moved, seconded. Councillor Palmer, all those in favour? That is unanimous. Okay, so we'll now move to notices of motion. We've got 11.2, Councillor Peterson-Pick, Deputy Mayor, call for submissions from local government potential housing options. Would you like to read out your...
It's exactly what is in the agenda.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Latta, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Look, so just as quick background, councillors, I think it was maybe a month ago when I heard that the state government was calling for submissions from all local governments to bolster the supply and diversity of social and affordable housing. And they created this new program. And I had some discussions with the city, and it was clear to me that the city requires some direction for them to go and further investigate into this issue. And this is the reason why I'm bringing this before us, so we can ask the city to provide a report with more information so we can all understand more about this program, the benefits, if it could be a good deal for us, and whether there are specific properties that we can use for that purpose. I'm specifically thinking that it is a very good opportunity for us, perhaps to deal with some city lots that we have that require more attention, and we need more collaboration with the city. We have, for example, the lot on the corner of King William Street and Guildford Road, which has a lot of contaminated land. And we need, as we discussed it in many years in the past, we need collaboration with the state government. We have other lots that we have drainage going in the middle, if you recall. We have lots of those, and I think that is an opportunity for us to jump on this and find out whether we can get the state government to help us using those lots, obviously for the overall community, for our residents, that many of them are suffering constantly with the housing shortage, but also to utilize those public land that just sits there for many decades without having any benefit to anyone. So I'm not sure about the revenue and what we can get, but I think if we can get them to help us coordinating with other departments and agencies to fix some of those issues, as I said, drainage, contaminated land, and we can get a win-win. We can get more housing, we can get more residents, we can deal with helping to deal with the housing shortage. Yeah, I see benefits. So I'm very interested to further look into this. Thank you.
Councillor Latta.
I just want to thank the Deputy Mayor for bringing this. I learnt a lot reading this report, and I think that it's a good opportunity, as the Deputy Mayor says, to investigate what's possible with some of these sites that are a little bit tricky but have residential potential. And I think that actually it's just kind of the responsibility is on us to explore these options, given the current situation with housing shortages and all of the pressure in that residential space. And this presents the best opportunity for a collaborative approach with the state government. So I think it's worth just seeing what sites have that potential and seeing what comes of that.
Deputy Mayor, I'd like to suggest an amendment. It's a minor amendment. Just considering the timeframes, you've got the November OCM. Would you consider changing that to December, because the reports need to be finalised because the November one is brought forward so we can fit in a December, and that deadline closes this Friday. So would you consider just moving it to
I'm happy,
December?
thank you.
Okay, can I just ask the minute taker to change that to December? Just need to have that on the screen. Okay, do I have anyone who wishes to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Sazowski.
Thank you. I think this is an excellent idea, and like Councillor Latta said, how we can work collaboratively with the state government to get some extra housing. But I think this also opens up the opportunity for us as a city to look at all of those land parcels that also could be used for other private investors who are also hoping to contribute to housing in the city of Bayswater as well. So I think this is a good step in that direction.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? If not, I'll go the move to close. Okay, I'll put it straight to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Okay, we'll now move on to item 12, which is questions from members without notice. Are there any questions? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. May I have an update on the Hotham Bridge works, please?
I'll go to the Director.
Through the chair, I'll have to put out a memorandum to the councillors in terms of an update on that project.
Can I ask a follow-up, please? When would we expect to see that, please?
We'll get something out this week.
Thank you. Got a few more questions, please. Just during the the first part of this meeting, I heard a few councillors talk about information they'd received about certain items, and I know people have these conversations with officers, but I just find it really sometimes difficult to feel that I don't have all the information. I'm just wondering if we can have a process where information is shared with all councillors when we've got decision-making items, please.
I'll go to the CEO.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So just to clarify, Councillor Johnson, so information in relation to agenda items, because we do get numerous emails from councillors, during the week and weeks preceding, so that information?
Yeah, my view is that, thank you for clarifying. Yes, I think that would be useful. I think we've done that in budget processes before, where all of the information is shared with all of the councillors when there's emails back and forward. I think we all should have access to the same information when we're making the same decision.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, I mean, if that's what council would like, then more than happy to copy councillors in on the responses to any queries or additional information that's provided.
Can I just check, because I think it's actually the current policy of information to elected members, and the CHD policy is that if it's on a strategic issue or something on the agenda, I thought that was the current policy, that councillors would be copied into replies.
I'll go to the CEO.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not aware of that, but I'm happy to look into that tomorrow, Councillor Ladder. We do get on many occasions CHDs or requests from councillors that only have 1, 2, 3 or all councillors, so it is a bit of an ad hoc process. But if certainly that's something that council wants to consider, then maybe we can bring that back through a briefing to discuss in terms of getting those parameters, and then we can put it into a practice.
Councillor Johnson, did you have any other questions?
Thank you. Yeah, Memorial Drive in Riverside Gardens East is closed at the moment. Just wondering what's going on there, please.
I think there was a memo about that, but I'll go to the director.
Yeah, through the chair, yes, there was a memorandum regarding that. That's actually closed for reinstatement works now that the train station works have finished. They were storing materials there, so now they have to reinstate the damage that's occurred, some of the road pavements and curbs that need to be replaced.
Thank you.
Councillor Ladder?
Thank you. I have a question about the new LED streetlights in Maylands. There's been quite a lot of residents with issues since this changeover with like bright lights coming into their homes and their bedrooms. And I'm just wondering if there is a remedy available to them. Are there standards around like appropriate levels of light coming into people's homes?
Go to the director.
Yeah, through the chair, those lights that have been installed, they've been installed in accordance with Australian standards. So they've been designed to meet the necessary light levels that are required for pedestrians, and the Australian standards basically stipulate what those levels are. So they've been designed in accordance with that. What you'll find is that the previous lighting that was there did not meet the Australian standards, so they were actually substandard. Yeah. So that's why they seem brighter. Also, the type of light that the LEDs put out just appears to be brighter simply because of a different type of light. In terms of trying to get something changed, when we do get those queries come in from the community, we do refer them to Western Power to review the designs and make sure that what's been installed on site meets the Australian standards, to make sure nothing's been put in that's brighter or non-conforming that's causing a problem to somebody. But when those situations, when they find out that they do meet the Australian standards, very little that we can do unless the city wants to pay for the modifications to be made there. So things that could be done is put shields and things like that. But if they've been installed in accordance with Australian standards, then Western Power will not come back and do that work unless we instruct them to do that and we pay for that work.
Yeah. Do you have an idea of how much shields cost per light?
I don't have the exact figure, but I know they're not cheap, not as cheap as what people think they are, simply because someone's got to work on an elevated work platform to get up there. We need traffic management. So the actual shield is probably the cheapest component of the whole thing. It's all the labour and traffic management that comes in that drives the price up.
Okay. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor. Oh, sorry, do you have more?
Yeah, I have another question just about the Olive Tree House tender where we had so many really excellent applicants, and the report said that the city would work with the unsuccessful applicants to help locate suitable premises. I'm just wondering if there are any that are currently available and what that process might look like.
I'll go to the CEO.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. As a result of that, I've actually been in contact with staff in terms of do we have any premises at the moment. We have identified one premise that's just come back up because a current person leasing that has handed back in the lease, and we'll go straight out to an EOI on that. But we're also looking at other premises as well that we can go out. But that one in particular, and it's one on Guildford Road, that should go out within the next week.
Great, thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out the status of the slide at Bayswater Waves. If I recall correctly, I think it's still not operating, unless I'm wrong.
I'll go to the director.
Thank you. I have to take that on notice as I haven't been here for the past 3 weeks, but I didn't see anything on my desk that it's not operational.
Okay.
So I'll find that out and come back to you,
So
Deputy
it's
Mayor.
operating. Okay. Thank you. The other issue is with regards to the 2 heritage facades on Guildford Road that I raised several months ago, asking the owners to clean them, the Albany Bell Hatchery and the Williamson's Motor House. I just wanted to check what's happening with that, because obviously it's still full with graffiti.
Thank you. Through the chair, I do know that the city's compliance officers have been liaising with the private landowners with respect to those properties. I'll follow up and provide you a response tomorrow in terms of where that's at.
Thank you. And if it's not going to be done soon, I want a follow-up question. What other measures the city can do to get property owners, specifically with heritage properties, to comply with our standards?
I'll go to the director.
Thank you. Through the chair, heritage and aesthetics are probably two different elements. So, for example, if a state heritage building was dilapidated and beyond repair, then there are elements within both the Heritage Act and the Planning and Development Act that we could utilise to pull a trigger. However, if it's just in relation to aesthetics, which is primarily what we're discussing, which is graffiti, etc., we are limited in some respects. So I would have to explore that further in terms of legislation, what other levers we could pull.
Thank you. And just a follow-up, because I just want to resolve this issue. I also would be interested to understand whether there are any measures that we can introduce, as we did with the shopping trolleys. We introduced fines. I would like to understand if we have the powers in the local law to introduce fines for heritage facades that are neglected.
Thank you. Through the chair. So with respect to planning and under the Planning Development Act, there's no local law per se. What you can introduce is a local planning policy. However, a local planning policy, again, is discretionary. It's not statutory. The one statutory document that's in the control of council that's ultimately determined by the state government through the West Australian Planning Commission is your scheme. The scheme is something that's currently being worked through at the moment, the new scheme. So that may be something you wish to raise through discussions of the new scheme.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I did send an email, but if it didn't get through, this is to do with the chair of the Local Government Elected Members Association with regard to the new Act. And there were quite concerns there. But I'm just wondering if the city could send to all councillors clarification of where we actually stand on it and what the big concerns are. So we have our city's point of view, not just somebody else's. If that can be done, yes.
You're familiar with that letter? I'll go to the CEO.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Palmer, I have actually responded to that last week, so check your emails. If not, I'll send it again in the morning because the Manager of Governance had actually looked into that and prepared a bit of a response. So maybe have a read of that first and then maybe come back to me after that. But I'll resend you the email again.
Yeah, I asked it to be sent to everybody. Did any councillors receive that? No? Okay, thank you.
Councillor Eason.
Cool. Yeah, just my usual too, I suppose. So have we heard anything regarding Galleria refurbishment?
I'll go to the CEO.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, nothing.
And anything about, is there any movement in the Bunnings site at all?
No.
And then just one for McGilvray Ave. So there's a project for the safety, and I had followed up with the city, but I sort of probably didn't get a time frame. I know there's a briefing or something was coming back to us soon, but do we have an update of when we're going to know more about that?
The intersection at McGilvray
and Morley Drive. Yes, please.
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, I don't have any more information at this point in time. We still need to meet with Main Roads and talk to them about timeframes. All we know at this point in time is that design for the intersection, the 15% design, is meant to be produced this current financial year, and then the next financial year, normally you'd carry out the construction work, but they don't have funding for the actual construction at this point in time. So it's something we're going to raise with them and try and hold them to getting that project funded at some stage.
Thanks.
Councillor Palmer.
Was that the information that we received a couple of months ago when they came into town, or was that extra information?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, it's very similar to what was presented, a couple of months ago,
Any other questions? If not, I'll move to item 13, new business of an urgent nature. There is no new business, urgent business this evening. Item 14 is confidential items, and we have one this evening. Can I have a mover and seconder to go behind closed doors? Move Councillor Palmer, seconded Councillor Maleka. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Ladder, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against is Councillor Ostaszowski. Can we please... So I will now close this evening's meeting at 8:11 p.m. Thank you, councillors.